Cardinal fans, welcome to this edition this week of Inside the Cardinal Playbook, and I'm here with Coach Kruse. And Coach, we're going to talk a little bit about last week's game against South Dakota School of Mines. We had 500 plus, total yards. You had a quarterback throw for 383, and total offense for him from 450. Had receivers. It got away from us a little bit, but overall, offensively, and let's take the positive. I really saw some good things.
Yeah, that was, that's not the way I thought that game would go. From a defensive perspective, we knew we had the ability to offensively come out and do what we did. We just hadn't realized that yet and put it on film. So that was great to see us, come out and roll for three quarters. Really, the first, second, and fourth quarter,
right,
offensively, we rolled. Now, we were doing some things because of chasing the score a little bit. We were pretty heavy pass-oriented because you're trying to get back in the game.
Right.
And I thought we did a nice job with that as a team of handling those situations. When they're going to blitz every down because they know you're passing and you're dealing with 5- and 6-man protections, I thought we did a good job up front. We gave up a few sacks. We held the ball a little bit longer than we should have a couple times. And we missed a few things, but we're talking about kick sliding and pass throwing 55 times a game or so, or 50 times a game.
Yeah. Because everybody's trying to run 100 plays.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, everybody's trying to run.
And we're getting close. We're in the 80s and 90s.
Right.
And and that's kind of where we've been trying to get to. And they were in the almost 90 plays too. And so it was one of those games. But it was bittersweet after the game from the standpoint. You hate to lose no matter what you're playing or what you're doing, and especially some of the things that happen defensively that really haven't been us all year. We come out the first series and it's 3 and out, and come out the next series and then we can't get a stop when we have a really hard time tackling the quarterback, which again hasn't been our MO for this group this year. It kind of reverted back to maybe where we were at earlier last season, and that was hard to swallow. But the bittersweet part of it, I guess, was the sweet part of it was we got to see ourselves go offensively, and we saw in not only our offensive player but our defensive player and everybody that was there went, wow, that's where we need to be, and that's where we need to get going to, and again we've got to be able to put those things together on the same day. We can't be hit and miss,
Right.
Like I talked to the team yesterday at Colorado Mines. Defensively we played great for three quarters and couldn't buy any offense. It was almost the exact opposite of that on Saturday, is where we played really good offensively for three quarters. Now the third quarter we needed to come out and get going a little bit, and we laid an egg a little bit in the third quarter offensively, but we couldn't buy any defense. So we got to get on the same page, and that's part of maturing as a team and coming together and understanding, hey, I've got to go out and do my job for 4 quarters every single time I'm out there. And I know you had some of our players on, some of our seniors over the last couple of weeks, and those guys only have a few plays left in their career.
That's what I was talking. I talked to her, a little bit about that to some of the guys, and that are seniors. When I talk to them, they're starting to understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely, and we have to understand that collectively as a team. And we can't use the youth card anymore, even though we don't have a lot of seniors still.
Right.
We've got some third and fourth year players now in the program, and we've got to be a whole lot more mature with our individual play. Meaning, I need to be, I need to execute the times I'm in there, and we talk about those things a lot, but we've got to get to the point where we're executing that way. I mean, that's maturity, in-game maturity, and that's discipline. Discipline is being where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, and doing what the heck you're supposed to do when you get there. And, that's in life, that's in football. If I'm a receiver and I'm supposed to run a 7-yard route, and when I get there I'm supposed to break it off and catch the ball, that's what I need to do. If I'm a DB and I need to defend that route, that's what I need to do, and so on and so forth throughout the operation. And, that's maturity, and that's where we got to get to.
Too, Coach, and I try to I try to coach you up being an old man, you know, so I try to be your buddy. You know, let's give the quarterback McKinney a little credit though from South Dakota State. Me and Rick both thought, this is just my opinion.
Right.
I'm entitled to. I thought he was the best quarterback we played against. He did a lot of really good things, and he was a tough kid to bring down. Not making excuses, but he was a quality kid. Now, did he transfer down from Montana?
He was a Division I transfer down from Montana. And they must have a slew of quarterbacks because to turn a guy like that loose, and I don't know all the particulars, whether it was a grade thing or whatever it was. You know, the reality was he was out there the other day, and we really struggled with him, tackling him in space. And you know, anytime you give up 200 and some yards to a quarterback running the ball, you know, and we were trying, we just didn't get it done. And you know, that's on us as coaches, and we've got to go back to the drawing board and make sure we're putting guys in the right places. And then if those guys aren't making the plays, when they're in the right places, we got to get another guy in there that will. And we're evaluating all those things like we do each week. And you know, like I said before, the hard thing was to swallow was through the first 3 games of the season, defensively we hadn't played that way. We'd executed and we'd put ourselves and helped our team be in situations to win, and we didn't do that on Saturday.
Well, we both know the game of football is 3 phases. You know, I worked a game Friday night where the specialty teams lost the ball game. It's 3 phases.
Absolutely.
You've got to win at least 2 of them and be pretty good, and the other one to get a victory. I don't care who you're playing in the game of football. And that seems to be the knot that we need to get untied and then tie all 3 of them together. You know, because I've said here with you many times, and when we've had a great defensive week and not a very good offensive week and vice versa. I got to ask you one question here closing this first segment. Were you pleased with Nick West's first college start? Got an opportunity to play? What was your opinion of him as far as opening up?
It was fun to watch him out there. I thought he did some tremendous things. You know, stat line wise, it was phenomenal. You know, and there's a whole lot more to play in the game than just the statistics. You know, I think he had 450 yards total offense, 375 or so throwing, and 5 touchdowns, and then rushed for another 75 or so. And that's a pretty good stat line for anybody, and for a quarterback on your first real college.
And he only had 1 insignificant turnover at the end of the game.
Yeah, and I had to go back in my mind and try and remember when that turnover happened. But the way he moved his feet in the pocket and understood, you know, at times when he could go get the first down himself. And, you know, I thought there was a lot of positive things there. And, you know, as, you know, Coach Brown, if he was sitting here, would tell you, you know, he did some really good things, and he's extremely proud of them as well. But the things he didn't do well on, a lot of his incompletions or where he sailed the ball here and there, he didn't. There's mechanically some things. The nice thing about him, he's just going to continue to get better.
Well, he's a sophomore.
Yep.
You know, and this, you know, anytime you start your first game at college level, it's so much faster than every step you take. And I'm getting ready to go do Monday Night Football, and they're very fast.
Yes,
people really don't.
Speed of the game.
Yeah, they just don't understand the speed of the game. You know, everybody, you watch it on TV, but if you get on a sideline, and it's unbelievable. So, you know, again, I think that a lot of good things happened this past week, and I think it was all non-conference stuff.
Yeah.
I think we got to forget about that, because we're going to the last segment I'm going to visit with you. We're going to talk a little bit about Lincoln and our opponent on Saturday. But you know, you're still right there. You look at the conference so far. There's, you know, everybody's beating everybody, and everybody's kind of where we're at. So it's who wants to go get it, you know, and that's where you're at. So hopefully, again, we'll get an opportunity this coming Saturday to get after it a little bit. So. Well, Cardinal fans, that wraps up the first segment of Inside the Cardinal Playbook. We'll be back for our second segment here in just 1 second. Cardinal fans, welcome back to our second segment of Inside the Cardinal Playbook. And it's my pleasure to have Marc Webel here, the defensive line coach. Marc, it's good to have you on. Always good to talk to you. You've become a friend, some guy I talk to when I get the opportunity about football. We look at this past week. You know, we're trying to do a lot of things defensively, a little bit different than what we've done since both of us have been here. And you got a lot of guys running the ball. I'm going to just use Eric Jackson as an example. You know, we brought him in from safety, and he's playing outside linebacker and actually a defensive end. But why don't you talk about all the kids? I know you coach the 2 interior kids, but with a different scheme. I noticed last week we had one down lineman at one point in the ball game. So why don't you talk a little bit about what your philosophy is and what some of the kids are doing?
No, I think we've really tried to hybridize our defense and make it a fast speed defense to deal with a lot of the different spread offense that you have. And we've got a lot of kind of those linebacker type bodies that we've used at D end, and both of our starting defensive tackles, Austin Doss, Connor Flager, were both linebackers in high school, starting middle backers, and have grown and built themselves into being really good defensive linemen, and have done a great job of growing in our system. And Coach Williams has done a great job of fitting the players that we have and building a system around them. So what we have is kind of maybe some guys that may be a little bit smaller than your typical defensive tackles, but they're athletic and they play hard and they get to the ball, and things that we really love about them is that they'll chase the ball. As Coach always says, they're used to playing sideline to sideline, with like a lot of
linebacker mentality.
Yeah, a lot of defensive linemen. As an old offensive lineman myself, I mean, you think about the 3 yards that you're in, and that's about all you do. All of a sudden, you see some of our guys running out of the box and chasing the ball down and doing a great job. So I mean, that's kind of where we've come from, and what we're doing. And even our backups, Omar and Colin Heller's great to have him back. After a foot injury, had a great camp, got hurt, had him back. He brings a whole different element because he's a true D tackle. It's always played D tackle. And was a good pass rusher from there. And then Aaron Nyers come down and played for us, and he's a guy that swings between outside and inside as a D end. And then the young kid, the true freshman, Brad Payne's going to be a heck of a football player before it's all said and done.
He's getting a lot of time. You've worked him in more and more as we played. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, and being a true freshman, he's a true freshman. And he's got his
really
ups and
well
downs,
spoken.
And but he's going to be a heck of a football player before it's all said and done because he's an athlete. He's a big guy. He's another guy who played linebacker in high school, and is going to be a good player. So
basically, what you're saying is you really teach and run to the ball.
Oh yeah.
And playing those type of guys. Now I notice it seems like when we run into little troubles when we get against those big physical offensive lines where they just try to knock you off the ball. How to counteract that? Obviously, you're not going to tell me because that's what you guys do. But again, your quickness is a key. I'm not making excuses for us, but we have had injuries at the linebacker position. You want to talk about that? How that's affected you?
Well, and true, that a guy like EJ we're talking about who was really finding a niche for himself at the end, had to move back. We've even brought Glenn Whitney over to play a little bit of defense. He played some this past week, and and Marcus Moya was a backer last year. Got him at rush.
Well, he's really improved.
He can do some
great pass rusher.
He can do some great things. So, those guys. The injuries come and go, and when you talk about the big D lineman, the main thing is just focus on your technique, and because we're all about getting off the ball. We don't want to, because we're not big. We're not going to sit there and fight with them. So we just want to get off the ball as much as we can, and get in the backfield and cause as much havoc as we can, and deal with the injuries as they come. Next man up. That's the way you've always got to be. That's the way it is for everybody out there. So,
do you think the change in defense has been a real factor? And you look at our sack situation in comparison to everybody else. We're one of the top 2 teams in the conference as far as sacks accumulated so far after 4 ball games.
Yeah.
And obviously your scheme is answering the question on that, don't you believe?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the speed. It's just attack as much as you can, and we just need to get back to that and keep doing it and continue throughout the year to do that at all times.
You're a guy up front, but I know you rely a lot on that secondary. I thought your secondary, particularly Riser, really played well last week. Yeah, he did a nice job.
He had an amazing game.
Yeah,
he had an amazing game. He was all over the field, and he's a very, very good player that we have a lot of trust in.
Lincoln, coming up, what are you looking for as far as the defensive line is concerned? You will see some more spread and keep it into 100 plays a game like we've been seeing?
I think so. I mean, I think that's what they want to try to do. They're very athletic. They're very big up front. They've got some gigantic guys on their offensive line and some very good athletes spread throughout. It's really similar to a lot of the spread teams we've played throughout the year. I mean, looking at them and SBU and some other places, they're just very similar. Kind of have the same game plan. It's just about us going out and executing it.
Boy, it's really true. Even in high school on Friday nights when I do those games, it's almost, I told Rick, it's almost just a stamp of what you're going to see, with the spread option and all the spread looks. Well, good luck to you, all the kids on the defensive line. Keep them coming. Keep that pressure on the quarterback, and we'll see you again this Saturday.
Thank you.
Nice having you on, Coach. Cardinal fans, welcome back to the third segment of Inside the Cardinal Playbook, and we've got the whole family in here. Had your brother in here last week, and Quinlan Riser. And I'm really glad that you're on, because I was driving home after the ball game. I really was thinking about what a great game you played. We'll kick it off. I'm going to throw you a softball. How about that interception you took back for touchdown? Why don't you give the Cardinal fans a little explanation on that?
Honestly, when it happened, I didn't even know if it was a fumble or anything. It just kind of landed in my hands, and I just ran with it. I was excited, at a point in the game to kind of give us a chance. That excited me, and just kind of the fact that Buck on the play, if you watch the play, he had a really great rush, and it would have been a sack had he not thrown it up. So kudos to him on that. That was great. But that kind of is what excited me about that play, the fact that it was both of us together kind of to make a play when we kind of needed it. So
obviously, in that situation, I thought that you're right about. He did a great job of rushing the passer. And that's kind of a leading question for me. I know we're trying to do some things differently defensively. We've got quicker linebacker type guys playing defensive end and those type of things. I noticed, I talked to Coach about it, that at one time we had one man and with his hand down on the ground, and you guys were scrambling and moving all around. How do you like it in the secondary? I guess my question to you is, you're probably our lead corner, and what I mean by that is that if we had a guy that we had to put on the number one receiver, the other team would probably be you. So that puts a lot of pressure on you, puts you on an island. How do you like it?
I like it a lot, but it makes it easier when you know that you have those quick guys rushing the passer, like Eric Jackson and then Marcus Moye, you got those guys really working hard to get to the quarterback. Then it makes it easy, because it's really kind of a battle with you and the quarterback more so than the receiver. So it's it's exciting. I like guarding the guy, just because I feel like that can help our team, so I like that.
What's amazing to me now, I do games on Friday night and I come and do games on Saturday, but almost probably 90% of the time now, maybe even larger percentage, all we see is a spread look, and the spread option, and of course throw the football. It's fun for receivers, but isn't that fun for defensive backs too? Instead of the old days when I used to coach, you had to come up and slobber knock somebody all the time. At least you can use your skills, your speed, your hand-eye coordination, those things, because you're a skilled athlete, even though you're not catching the football. It's got to be fun for you guys in the secondary to play against that type of offense, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of times, when we start out film for the week and you open up the film cut up and you see like 2x2, 3x1 and everything like that, then you get pretty excited. You see like 50 plays of pass, then you kind of get excited, because you know that the game's you're gonna have opportunity to make plays in the game and everything like that. So yeah, we really get excited for spread teams and teams that we know pass a lot, because as a secondary, we look at that as a challenge and a chance to help our team win games. So we really do enjoy playing spread teams.
You know what, Rice? I don't think I've ever been involved in a game as a coach or a commentator or anything else. The first game when we beat Southwest Baptist, when we had to play 10 guys in the secondary because everybody's cramping up, and you were one of them.
Yeah.
But you might want to talk a little bit about that and talk about some of your comrades in the secondary, because you guys have played a lot of guys in the secondary this year.
Yeah, and with the Southwest Baptist game, I think that just showed that we have a lot of depth in the secondary. I'll start with Thomas Clinton, another senior at free safety. He's a great player.
Yeah, he's had a good year.
Yeah, really like a ball hawk, coming down and breaking up passes in the tackle game, everything like that. We got Andrew Pence, who's really stepping up big for us as a freshman this year, and I think he has a lot of confidence. He's going to do bigger things as we go forward. We got Daniel Granger, Lee Nesbitt, Mike McQuaig. We have a bunch of corners that I believe can make big plays, and I believe will make big plays down the line. So I just think we have a strong secondary. We just got to keep working on execution and being in the right places at the right times, and I think going forward we'll be just fine.
Didn't ask your brother this, and both of you are so really nice young men and very articulate and very smart. But can you believe you're already a senior?
It goes by really fast. Honestly, until someone tells me I'm a senior, I kind of forget like I'm going to be doing this forever. But yeah, it really just makes it mean that much more to you, and you have to go that much harder and just kind of take everything in, because it really is the last time, like the last homecoming game, the last everything's the last.
Yeah,
so.
you know, when you get at the end of the road, I've been at the end of the road in a lot of different ways. You know, you really don't realize it until you get just about there and you think, golly, I've dedicated all this, my whole life to this situation. What are you going to do when you get done, when you graduate? You got any plans yet?
Well, not really yet. I'm majoring in
I'm sure
accounting,
there's a lot of women
so,
just waiting, knocking at the door, can't wait until you get out.
I mean, they haven't come to my door yet, but maybe when I get the degree. You know? But yeah, right now, you know, the major's accounting, so something in that field potentially.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity. You know, when you get it, one thing about going to Williamsville College, you get a degree, you'll have an opportunity to get a job, and that's the most important. Well, I want to tell you, your mom and dad have done a wonderful job with both of you. You guys are fine young men. Hey, good luck. You know, I've been telling all the guys, I've been following the conference, you know, ever since we kicked off the season, and you know, we can be right there. We just got to believe ourselves and get there, and I know you do, and you got to be a big part of that because you're a senior on this club. So good luck to you guys in the secondary. Looking forward to next weekend against Lincoln.
Me too.
All right. That ends our third segment of Inside the Cardinal Playbook, and we'll be back to finish it up and talk a little bit about our opponent next week. Well, Cardinal fans, welcome back to our last segment of Inside the Cardinal Playbook. And we're going to forget about last week, and we're going to move on. And now we're moving on in the conference, which is important to all of us, and particularly you and your staff and your players. And we're going to start out with Lincoln. Lincoln's 1-3. We're going to play them at 6 o'clock at night. It's one of our night games. And why don't you talk a little bit about Lincoln and some of their opponents, some of the things you've seen on tape so far?
Yeah, you finished last segment by talking about a little bit about the conference and kind of where we're at and where we've been. You know, we've talked a lot with the players about. We've actually related to it driving in your car, right? Your windshield is a whole lot bigger than your rearview mirror because the stuff in front of you is a whole lot more important than what's behind you.
Absolutely. Good analogy.
And for us right now, that is huge. You know, we set an internal goal, you know, as a team this year during training camp, and it was very heavily based on conference play. Not that every one of us, you know, didn't want to win our non-conference games, but, you know, as we sit here, you know, the ironic thing is we're 1-3, and we're picked last to finish in the conference. But you know, going into week 5 here, we're tied with the top 3 teams in the conference that were picked 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
You know, with no losses in conference play. So we have a lot still to play for, and I think our players see and know that and feel that, and they'd like to make a statement. And you know, it's been a long time at William Jewell since, you know, somebody's gone out in conference play and done some things, and we'd like to do that in the biggest way. And you know, they weren't preseason games; they counted the last 3 we lost. But hopefully, we've learned a lot from them and grown a lot from them, and that can get us some things done here as we move into conference play for the next whatever it is, 5 or 6 games. Yeah, what do we have left? 6 or 7 games, and Lincoln will be the first one this weekend, as far as, you know, the first one coming back off these non-conference. And you know, they're athletic. Everywhere on the field, they're big and athletic, and they'll be a huge challenge for us. You know, we've had some light competitions, but you know, at the end of the day, what matters is what happens when they turn the lights on Saturday night and for a 6 o'clock game, you know, at our place, and they're going to spread it out and push the pace, and you know, defensively they're going to throw some different looks at you with some really athletic guys. And you know, they've got a returner who's in the top 10 in the country right now in kickoff returns.
Good skill kids.
Yeah, they've got a tailback that was a second-team All-MIAA player last year at running back, and they've got some good players. And you know, the folks that are there on Saturday night will see that. You know, we've got to be able to counteract that with some things we do, obviously, and then be disciplined in our responsibilities, as we've, you know, talked about earlier in the first segment. But you know, we like where we're headed here. For sure. You
know, real quickly, 6 o'clock start, how do you like that? Because it's a little unusual for us. You know, we only have 1 or 2 a year.
You know, it just depends. What I would say right now is we're 1-0 in night games.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I think our players enjoy playing under lights as well. And, you know, we've had some – it was a little warmer last Saturday too. Warm. And, you know, I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like the rest of the week here, but it should be a nice, cool evening. And, you know, those are the ones that you and I – you know, probably some of our fondest memories in mine, for sure, as a player and then as a coach, have been on some evening games or some night games against some pretty big competition, and it just
I'm a
makes
Friday Night Lights guy.
a whole lot more fun.
That's where I grew. I mean, that's my whole life. Yeah, I agree. Well, Cardinal fans, you know, again, hopefully, hey, the turnout was great. We won't get time to talk about it, but the turnout was great for homecoming. We were rocking. I wish we had that band when I walk in the stadium because I was popping some moves, and it was a lot of fun. And that's what this should be a little bit. You know, I think we lose sight sometimes. College football for the fans and the kids should be a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll see everybody. Another big conference game, 6 o'clock. Here at William Jill. Hope all of you will come, and we'll keep trying to rock and roll. Okay, we'll see you then on Saturday night at 6.